our previous lecture, which was titled that how we can define the internal component. Although there are a few, but the most important four of them is modes, infrastructure, networking, and flows. So, if someone asks about the mode, so the mode is basically represent the convenience or the way through which we mostly take the type of a vehicle to support the mobility of a passenger or freight, okay, or a very bulk type of a item. So some modes are actually designed to carry only passenger, while some of them are only designed to carry the freight transport, while other can carry both, okay. So we have different type of modes according to its characteristic and according to its desire and according to its function. The next part is about infrastructure. So the physical support of transport mode, where we have different type of routes or belts such as railway tracks, canals, or highways, or even terminal, or ports, or even airport. So the most significant part is so the most significant part is or the component in the infrastructure which include or which make mobile or which make movable. So for the infrastructure purposes, so the infrastructure is actually consist of the physical support which we provide to the transportation. Okay. So the next part is about networking, a system of linked location of a linked location. Okay, so you need to, for example, if someone just give you the figure, so you should define that in the networking we are talking about the different link location, which are basically used to represent the different function according to its organization, which is basically required, or the way of mobility, or either of the people, or either of a very huge bulk, for example, load types. Okay, so some location within a network are more accessible than the others. Okay, so this is just a one types of a networking. But when we talk about the different flaws, so flaws is basically give us the option or the movement of people or the freight and information or their respective networking, dis- their desired location, and so on. Flaws have different origins, which varies according to its location and according to its destination. Okay. For example, for instance, just for your own experience, flying from one airport to another may require a transit at different secondary or the hub airport. So this is basically different flaws which have different origins, different locations, and different destinations. So this was the part which we already covered under the title of the all internal component. Now we will go to one by one to the external component. So when we talk about the external component, so it's very important that you should understand that in the external component, we are talking about different elements. So we are starting from the very first one, from the government. Okay. So the government, the customer, the general public, the stakeholders, supply industry, financial communities, and competition. All of those are called the external component. Now we will try to understand one by one with different examples. For example, if we talk about government, so government means the taxes. So regulation is a key concern of the infrastructure industries within for to consume or for their consumer citizens and for their governments. Okay, so it is very much important to recognize that regulation in multidisciplinary activity, which type of a consists different laws, political sciences, political administration, social administration, businesses, and economy. So if you take out the very important term of the regulation from the system. For example, if we want to push someone to use or public transportation, and you take out the very important element of a reliability. So if your service is not reliable, so the people who are basically the entities of that system, if they will not make sure the proper implementation of their said duty roster, or they will not perform their duties accurately, so you cannot provide the reliability within the system. And this thing is only possible under the regulation. The same, all those things comes if you talk about the terminology of the taxes, of the safety regulations, of the user fees, financial regulations, and so on. For example, if we talk about the term taxes, so from those taxes, the state actually earn a very huge chunk. Okay, for example, if someone is spending 1,000 PKR, so in the same his ticket or his transit ticket, the state will deduct amount of, for example, 20 to 10 to 20%, for example. And when we talk about the safety regulation, so there should be a proper administration which should look after of all those safety concerns met. For example, if we talk about motorway, so in the motorway, so we have the motorway police, okay? But if we talk about the airport, in the airport, we have the Civil Aviation Authority, which we call CAA, okay? If we talk about railways, in the railways, they have their own commercial and freight and safety inspector. But if we talk about, for example, the water shipment, the things like that, so they make sure that the ship, the boat, they want to use for their own ride, either for the local or for a very short distance, does not have any holes in. Okay, it should have enough fuel within the tank and so on. So without regulations, we cannot work. Okay. The next thing is about the user fee. User, what does it mean by user fee? When you are going to use a type of a facility, okay, so then you need to pay for that. For example, its best example is motorway toll tax. Okay, so toll tax is the kind of a user fee. For example, if you want to use that specific mode, so then you need to pay the that specific fee. The next part is about the financials regulation. Okay, uh, the regulatory process generally comprise three stages. The one is to enable legislation, okay? The creation of regulatory bodies, enabling financial regulation campaign, enabling regulation. So under that specific territory, we have two major parts. The one is regulation of administration, means rules. Okay. While the next part is about that the how you apply or the bringing or implementation step. Okay. For example, we want to bring the financials regulation within any system, so it should work under a specific umbrella where we can see that who is accountable for like what. Okay, so under that, first of all, we need type of regulations or the administrative different approvals or bodies, which we call rules, while the next part is about the implementation. So the next part is about entry and exit.
रेगुलेशन का मतलब क्या हुआ कि फाइनेंसेस का रेगुलेट करना?
How you are going to regulate, operate, and make it financially viable. For example, each and every project, for example, if you take its example, so the state have a very clear vision that who will pay and who will build this specific facility. And they have idea that, for example, within 10 to 15 years, you can give them back their own investment. But within our financial regulation, we are not up to the mark in the same recovery takes from 10 to 12 years up to the 15 or maybe like 20 years. So again, this is the human involvement which are not capable to take that financial regulation to that mark which were basically designed by the system. So this is a very clear difference that we have the two components. The one is the internal regulation, while the other one is the external regulation or the external component. So this is the one which is not in the system, but controlling the system from the outside. Financial regulation, okay? Of course, you will have monopolies, and we will talk about monopolies in the next slide. For example, when the quality is required, okay, you should bring the monopoly. If there is a single user, if there is a single facility provider, whatever he will do, we don't have any option. He have to bear that. But if you will bring the multiple choice to the people so that you can use according to your own comfort. For example, for some people, maybe that they have a lot of time, but they don't have money, so they want to travel in a very I wouldn't call it a cheap, I would call it the economical mode. And but for the some people, time is money, time is quite precious, so they don't care about money. For example, if they pay around even 1 to 200 euro for their single journey, but for them, time is very much important. So you should bring monopoly. And the next part is about the provider of infrastructure. So like who will provide the infrastructure, who will build it, who will regulate it. Okay, so next part is about provider of the funding. This is the reason that even MIT, Harvard, and Portland State University also put provider of the funding in the very last, because this is the one part through the whole government basically work or function. Ali, you don't need to write those points, okay? It's already mentioned in your slide. So the main important thing is if you grab something else, so you just write it down, okay? So now we are talking about the competition or like monopolies. So how you can bring monopolies, okay? So when we talk about competition, monopolies, so you can have a look. We have the two different type of a transportation. One is called intra-modal, while another one is called intermodal. Okay, when we talk about the intermodal, so intermodal means there are the
Intra-model, sir,
intra. One is inter and another one is intra. When we talk about intermodal, so means we are going to compare the rail business versus trucks, okay? But when we talk about intramodal, so its best example is from the Europe, okay? So for example, if you want to fly with the Air France, with the German wings, or with Dutch airlines from one country to another, maybe you need to pay a lot of money. But if you want to try with Ryanair, RYA in Ryanair, so they have a kind of a facility where you cannot take your huge luggage. So the maximum weight of that specific luggage is, for example, 5 to 7 kilos. So maybe you can take your 3 to 4 dresses or pants and one laptop. So this is will be allowed. So you cannot take a very huge luggage. Okay, but they give you provide a seat, and they usually fly from the secondary airport as well. But if you compare its price, for example, from Germany to Spain, so I traveled around 40 euro, 40 euro. But how they are going to attract customer, because they did not fly from the primary airport. So we have the two different types. One is primary, another one is secondary. In the primary, they have very higher fee, but in the secondary, the type of airport which is about to obsolete or not using anymore, for example. So they just build their own facility there and they operate from the secondary to the secondary airport. For example, if this is the city, the two country, and this is their main connecting points, okay? What they do, they operate from somewhere here, from the secondary to secondary. So which actually reduce its distance. Along with that specific distance, fare is also low. So this is that how you can bring the intra-model or the competition within other airlines.
The CPAC is the intra-model.
No, CPEC is basically the kind of a corporation between two countries, which is not only to boost your airline industry, but this is they are going to build kind of a different workstation. They are trying to enhance the quality of the Pakistan railways to build different railway structure, even dams, even electric lines, electrified lines. So we have a very huge energy losses. So they are trying to convert all those wires as well.
So shipping also included in intra-model.
Intermodal. In the intra model, we are going to only kind of compete within a single mode, but to only bring the different kind of a monopoly. So the next part is about G. Go ahead. Any question? Okay. Next part is about the for the consumer maybe. So he should buy a house or should he go for a vacation? So this is different concept. Different people have different mindset. So some people think that instead of a house, so you should go for a vacation. Okay. So this is a concept which you need to understand that how you can kind of take their interest. Okay. Like for example, what will be best for him? And the next part is about the transportation communication system competition. Okay, so here is a one word viewing the competition is a static. So if you guys would like to write it down, that what is basically static view of competition. So the static view of the competition is basically focusing on the structure of the market to determine the factor of competition. Okay, so through which we can focus on the structure of the market for the purpose to determine the competition, which focus or which have the view in terms of the dynamic way. Uh, the static view of competition focuses on the structure of the market to determine the competition factor. सिंपल मकसद ये है कि how you can bring technology with entrepreneurship. Okay. Or also you would like to see that what is the importance of different barriers. For example, you would like to bring technology, but the people are not able to adopt that specific thing. Okay. So if you can see here, this is a view. The competition is a strategy. For example, आपने कहीं भी कोई facility बनानी है या आप बनाना चाहते हो, लेकिन वहीं के जो लोग हैं, they are not kind of able to adopt that mindset. So the question is how you can bring technology with entrepreneurship. So what is basically means of entrepreneurship to provide those people that how they can start their own work, their own business. That's it. Next part is about stakeholder. So we are basically the stakeholder. Okay. So again, the people, the organization, or the customer or the supplier. So, for example, they don't have any concern. They have a concern with the environmental communities, with the general public concern, with the qualities of life, national defense, and so on. So, for example, if we talk about the stakeholder, so stakeholder will never think about the people, the organization. They will only think about their self. For example, if he wants to invest money, he is not there to provide or the medium to the people. He is there to earn money, to make it triple even, to make it 5 times, right? He's not there to. So all those people, so like if we talk about these stakeholder, so the customer, the kind of decision makers, the organization, the different communities, general public. So they will never think about national defense and so on and so on. So just you need to imagine that the stakeholder is there to invest money and make it double or even triple. Okay. So the last part we have the customer. Okay. So when we talk about the customer, who is the customer? Actually, actually the person who is using that specific element. So, or the most external element is actually how we can bring or like boost the different businesses. Okay, so you need to understand that what is the difference between public sector and private sector. So, but in the view of who? In the view of customer, because we have those two terminologies, which is quite important. That how you are going to differentiate the public and private sector, but in the view of the customer. For example, if we talk about uh, public sector, so in the public sector, we take each and everything for granted. Am I wrong, then?
No, sir.
But if we talk about private sector, why the concept of privatization is booming in Pakistan? Because the issue is with the ownership.
Yes, sir.
If I give you, for example, after completing or after successfully completion of your competitive exam, you don't care about anyone. So you are kind of a god in yourself. But all those people need to understand that they are there for the to provide their services for the betterment of the people,
Yes, sir.
not for themselves.
Yes, sir.
Our, history, I was reading a book and they say that uh, there is a difference between the leader, the freedom, and power. And that is how they were going to differentiate it. If I can put it in a simple word, that whenever you have a choice either to follow him or not to follow him, this is called freedom.
Yes.
If you see a vision and mission in that specific man, if you can see him that he is a visionary, so you will follow him.